Hi.
Is this the social hall?
Yes.
Is this bingo?
No.
Oh.
Bingo's over there.
Oh, okay.
I'll show you.
Here. You may let kids play. That's our question.
No, I don't know.
Alive believe that every Bahamian deserves a world-class network and excellent customer service. We believe that every Bahamian deserves introducing a network that works in good and bad times. We believed and we delivered. I am proud to be
I'm
Oh,
sitting here.
God.
Hey, Chuck, how you doing?
Hey, Chuck. That's why he was
Okay, I can hear you now.
Oh, God. Now we can tell him about his background noise and he needs to be.
Well, that's interesting.
I didn't hit, I hit Chuck.
So-
You did, I saw
You
you.
did.
I don't know when the other.
Reverted or.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know
God.
when the other.
It'll be all right.
So,
It's
So my
beautiful.
question is, so if there is someone that maybe either A, they're not wanting to call attention to it, or B, they're unsure, that can't be, they
Let me,
can't be questioned?
I think they can, and let me use an actual example, and it wasn't, we kind of just let it go because it wasn't a big thing, but when the festival committee comes and asks for permission to use the park, Shane Hamilton comes.
I know where you're going.
Mike Hamilton usually abstains from those, but in one of those approval votes, he didn't abstain, he just voted yes. Now, everyone else on council, it was 5-0 without him, and so we didn't go into it, but there were a couple looks like, wait a minute, should have abstained. Because it's his son presenting it. You know, that one, I don't. Could someone have called it out on him? Yes. Should we have? Probably. So making it a little clear is, you know, anybody believing there is a reason, a conflict and a reason for abstention should raise the question immediately after the vote. I don't think is a bad thing to put in there, because then it makes it clear, because it's not just us sitting here, it's council that's going to read these in 20 years, because they might not be revised for another 20 years, that isn't sitting here with all those experiences to say, well, what happens if someone does need to abstain and didn't?
So we'll add
Put
that
it in there.
verbiage.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
gonna
a little
try to
bit the
get-
way I was reading it, it was like, if I abstain from a reason, or if I abstain for something, you don't have the right to ask me why.
We don't have the right to ask you why.
Hmm.
On the flip
But
side, though,
The flip side,
if you vote and we think you shouldn't have,
correct,
we may actually have an obligation to ask why you didn't abstain.
I agree with that totally. So I don't know exactly how to.
Oh, I think I got all of his words. That's what I was gonna say. I'll send out a red mark document. Hopefully tomorrow, if I can get in first thing in the morning, and because there's not a whole lot of changes before we start doing the minutes.
The only other thing that I had was on page 24, both the designated public places and newspapers. I mean, I don't know if you still use all those places or not, whether we should.
Those need to,
Mhm.
my preference would be, it says something along the lines of shall post at, you know, our 5 public locations. We can name the kiosk outside the village hall and maybe the library, because we know those will always be guaranteed to us. All of the others could change. Same thing with paper of, I mean, the Columbus Dispatch
As they do with Linden Hills Dispatch. I wouldn't think.
in the Eagle Gazette. Not anymore either, because it's not a paper of general circulation in the village.
Right.
Even though it's only printed every 2 weeks, it's the town crier.
So
Yes.
can we just strike number, well,
L.
yeah,
Well,
L out?
We have to say where we're
Well,
gonna do it.
Not
Well, wait a minute.
necessarily.
We still do legal publications.
I'm bids,
Mhm.
bids for one. I'm required twice a year to publish the notice to the public that the financial reports are available for inspection
And where do you publish those?
in the Eagle
at?
Gazette
The Eagle
Oh, you
Gazette.
do that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and the tax budget.
I would strike the Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah,
Maybe say Lancaster Eagle Gazette and or any other paper in general circulation. Because that's what the revised code requires, it to just be a paper in general circulation.
I,
It's also posted on our website.
Yes,
So to me, that's
Yeah, I
the
like
more
the
public
website.
posted, really.
yes.
the paragraph above, I mean, it says Baltimore branch of Fairfield National.
It's
Would
not
that
Fairfield
be,
National anymore.
well, yes, but
They also kicked us out.
they didn't, Park National no longer allows that kind of,
Right.
for those, and we've talked Schaffner's into being a posting place.
So I think that goes to the mayor's statement that we say the kiosk, the library, and the website, plus 3 others, and not call them out.
Not name them.
Not
by
name
name.
Yes.
And just to be copacetic with revised code, maybe we say on our guaranteed kiosk and post office one, the other public posting locations shall be listed. Because Schaffner's might take down their community bulletin board in 5
Oh,
years and then we have
that's
to
good.
change again. But
So will
that-
you say that
but-
again?
The kiosk and the guaranteed ones, however you want to say that,
Yeah,
shall identify the other public posting locations.
Yeah.
And that way, if
Oh.
it changes, we know that you can go to the kiosk and you
See
can
where else you can
see the other 4 stuff. Yeah,
and that also validates that we're putting it in other places too, so I think it's a good change.
That's all I have.
You just.
I think
Yeah.
that was great. Yeah.
Check
Good
that
job,
one
good
off
job.
our to-do list.
Well, maybe. I'll get that sent out
that's true.
and you can look at it and then include that into the minutes.
Now how do we bring this up at council? Just say,
so you could do it one of 2 ways. The way that our rule should have it would be Terry will do the red line version and Jeff will create an ordinance
okay,
that would come back to Rules Committee
now I understand.
to,
Good job.
his ears must have been burning,
Here's
Um,
Bernie, Jeff.
to come back, and it can come back to Rules, and then Rules reviews the ordinance and all the red line stuff again, and then motions to send it to council, and that's where the sponsor gets identified. Or, as we've done in the past, the committee can say, motion to prepare the ordinance with the red line version for council. What happens then is Jeff prepares it and the ordinance appears as a first reading in 2 weeks with the red line. And you always have the option to send it back to committee because you'll have another rules meeting in between it. It kind of expedites it along.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I mean,
Yeah.
We
so-
do that
so you
usually
can
and it
either
works well.
do it like that, motion to have Jeff prepare the ordinance
Mm-hmm.
to present at the next committee meeting or council meeting means in 3 meetings from now, these could conceivably be passed. If you don't do that, Terry prepares the red line and you wait 1 more month,
Right.
review it again in committee and say, okay, we're ready to send this to council and then prepare the ordinance. We've done them both ways. It just depends on what you want to do and how detailed you think it is. Some of the more complex stuff, we usually, if it's not an emergency or we need to get it done quick, we let it go to the next committee meeting. But
So
it's,
do I have a motion on one of those 2?
or I think you just figure out how you want to do it.
Yeah, figure it out.
Then figure out how you want to do it, and then someone can make the motion to, if you're going to go ahead
The
and
next
ask,
time around or now?
figure out how you want to do it now.
Now,
And then if someone wants it, if your decision is to send it to council for the next meeting, to have Jeff go ahead and prepare the legislation now, even though you haven't seen the red line, then you can make that motion.
So what do you guys think? I do too.
I agree, it's not urgent.
Yeah,
so what are we deciding?
It'll stay on the agenda.
Yeah.
They're gonna wait, and review it at the next meeting.
What exactly is staying on the agenda? I must have.
well,
The
the
rules.
agenda for the rules of council
It'll appear under old business at the next one.
with the red lines through it, so then we can rediscuss it and then decide what is
Yep,
Yes, the changes we just made.
yes,
correct.
because you might have changes on those changes.
Sure. Okay. I believe that new business is finished. Does anybody else have any more new business?
Yes, annexation. I'll talk quick. All right, so the issue has come up and that we have someone who may be willing to annex into the village. It's a sizable piece of property, about 20 acres. The caveat is They want to be able to continue hunting on those 20 acres. Now, council at the end of last year had a similar request from someone from a different parcel. And council said no. On that one, it was a smaller parcel. It was, I think, a 5-acre parcel. And the general inclination was not to allow the hunting because of discharging guns in the village limits and a smaller parcel. This larger parcel is currently being used to hunt, and in talking with Chief Tussey, they can comply with all the necessary laws with the exception of discharging a firearm in the village limits and hunt safely on that parcel. So it became, what do we do? Because as we start to annex, we're going to bring in more and more farmland that may or may not be hunted at the time. So Jeff and I got here just in time.
I did.
Had a very long
When
conversation.
this came up before, though, it was with regard to me shooting a groundhog on my property. that she
No.
said it was okay.
No,
I mean, prior to that.
Oh,
Prior to that.
That I don't remember.
That I don't remember,
Yeah.
but this was the
He
old,
indicated that it was okay to discharge a firearm on your own property in the village limits.
for a nuisance animal.
Okay.
No, it's a nuisance animal.
Okay.
Get rid of
Can I shoot the
groundhog.
cats then?
You and I need to have a conversation
You
because
shouldn't
I
talk about that in a public meeting.
Oh,
I-
Feral pets, not
I
cats.
brought that up before too, in front of a state person that does a cat rescue, and oh, did I get daggers.
I actually thought
Anyway,
that the chief had said that we defer to the Ohio as far as distance from houses and.
Well, we
residences and
do.
things like that.
but we have ordinances about discharging firearms in the village limits.
Okay.
And this parcel, the way it was situated in hunting, council wasn't inclined to say, okay. This other parcel now has come up and
And Tussey feels it's okay that it's not near houses where they're.
right, so, but we need to come up with a way to address these. So what Jeff and I discussed earlier was an ordinance from council that when someone is considering annexing it and makes the specific request to be allowed to continue hunting on that property, that we need to do some fact finding because not all parcels is it going to be appropriate for. The BZA or Planning Commission is a good fact finding for that type of stuff. Council could do it itself, but when Jeff and I were talking, send it to BZA to make a recommendation. Council gets ultimate decision on annexations. But send it to BZA to do the fact finding. Does this fit into this community? Is this going to be a safety issue? Make a recommendation and then send that back to council for your decision. As council, you can accept their decision or you can reject their recommendation. But they've at least done the fact finding of, hey, this 20-acre parcel, there's 2 homes to the west of it and there's no one else around, so it's not going to be a problem. So we're okay with this one. Hey, this 2-acre parcel that's surrounded by a new subdivision might be a different issue. But we need to come up with, and that way it's addressed on a case-by-case basis. Because we've now had 2 in a year, and as we start to look at annexing more, all we have is farmland that is actively hunted, so this question is going to come up again, so we need a procedure to address these. And in particular, this 120-acre parcel is one that we really kind of
Yeah.
Oh,
wanted.
absolutely.
We hate for this to be the reason we can't get what we want.
Exactly.
And it's strategically located.
And they hunt it now.
Yes,
So nothing really changes. What's most likely to change is that the development happens and now the state law prevents them from using it.
correct.
So that's the more likely.
That's the more likely. But doing it on a case-by-case basis allows it. We do it like that instead of making it a special permit or anything. We don't have to worry about changing any zoning codes, but we can send it to a fact-finding committee.
So what is it that you want from the rules committee?
Discussion on this and hopefully a game plan to move forward because this is a time-sensitive matter.
Yeah.
And again, council you guys can say, as rules committee, say, we think that it would be best that council just hear the pros and cons, or we, like I said, we send it to,
Would it be appropriate for council to address this one without sending to planning and zoning, but then create a way forward that automatically would go to planning and zoning?
It's not planning and zoning, it's BZA.
BZA, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, BZA.
I think we could do that because this one becomes the impetus or the necessity.
To send it to BZA.
One happened and it happened. Now we've got two, so we've got a pattern. Act on it just like we did the last one, but develop the policy going forward.
Yes, that's what I'm suggesting. How would I word that in a motion? Foreman moves to,
Got that
do we
part.
need that in the motion? I don't know that we would.
Well, we want legislation, so do you think, to authorize this?
or are we just gonna make the
Yeah, but
legislation in
wouldn't-
council?
Wouldn't that come
Has to go
after
through committee first.
It's in committee now.
Yeah, so the
legislation
motion
to?
needs to come from.
Oh, I see.
We're trying to make a motion.
It's the rules.
Oh, it's the goal, it's 20 acres along railroad tracks.
Oh, that one, okay.
Yeah.
Not violating a rule by saying there's any. Okay.
No, because we mentioned them publicly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a 20 acre parcel that would connect Robert Falls land.
Yeah.
I mean, it would make it contiguous with land that is in the village. Our only solution is to literally unannex some land along the railroad tracks in order to find a different goofy workaround, where this one just makes it simple.
So this was the parcel that connected him.
This is the
Yeah.
way it should be.
So I think what we could do is you make the motion to just have Jeff prepare the ordinance for committee to review at the next meeting regarding annexations with special requests to hunting.
Okay.
And then in council, when the annexation goes through, we can have the discussion there since we've already discussed it publicly. And council can then make the motion and have a discussion on whether or not we think in that particular instance it's appropriate.
So Foreman makes a motion that we instruct council to prepare an ordinance regarding annexation and special permission to hunt on annexed land that will be reviewed by BZA.
Separate.
On a case by case
Yeah,
basis.
yes. Do I have a second?
Seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
And then since
Do I have
we're,
any more new business? Okay. If not, the next meeting will be held on the second Monday of April 11th at 6:45 or immediately following Finance Committee. I move that this meeting be adjourned.
Pause.
yeah, you can stop it. Or you can just mute and turn off our camera and